We have made the decision to sell up and move. We did initially have a 5-year plan. Let me sit down a minute. And it was going to be in 5 years we were going to move on, because I would be 70 then, and Martin would be of retirement age and getting his pension. And so that was always the plan. Sort of when I hit my 70s, we would wind down, buy a smaller place, get a motorhome and go off travelling. We've brought all that forward and we're hoping to have the small holding on the market for next year. What's changed this? Well, there's a couple of things. One, the neighbours up here, they're not neighbourly. You couldn't depend on them for anything, especially the ones immediately neighbour to us. They don't even say hello, they don't say good morning, nothing. They're really, really strange people. And there was an incident involving one of their visitors a few weeks back where their visitor deliberately run into one of our dogs on the drive because it was in their way. And this incident involved the police, etc. I'm not going into details of it. And that I found quite upsetting, and how there was no remorse or nothing. It's not a shared drive, we own the drive, they have right of access, and their visit, me and my little workman were repairing some of the potholes in the drive, and we were in the process of collecting up tools we'd finished, and the visitor came down the drive. The dogs were with us as usual. You know, they're old dogs, and apart from Poppy, of course, who isn't old, but the dogs were with us, and they got impatient waiting for the dogs to move out of their way, who are deaf, losing their sight, arthritic and everything else, and they run into one of them, and then they denied it and laughed about it and did all the usual shouting, prove it and all this sort of thing. And then she made up a load of videos making out that I'd pushed her over and whatever. Anyway, so there was all that. So that was I found all that quite upsetting, and the fact that our neighbour was willing to go along with it all. Anyway, then last week we had another incident involving the other neighbour. Now, this other neighbour is who we bought off 10 years ago. And we've always got on well with them. They're friendly. None of them up here, you know, create a noise or anything like that. But yeah, we'd always got on with them. She's got her elderly mum, and we've always kept an eye on her when her daughter's been away. We've helped them out with things, you know, done all the neighbourly things, you know, sit and have a chat together and a cup of tea and do all that. The daughter decided, her mum now is in her 80s and lives in a caravan in their yard. And it's only a small caravan, but then that's their choice. If that's how they want to live, fine. Well, the daughter seems to have this idea that she was to buy a big static. The daughter doesn't like to go to work. The daughter's in her 50s, doesn't like to go to work. She's a bit of a, put it politely, lazy. She doesn't really start anything during the day until late afternoon, early evening, just when we're winding down and waiting to relax in the evening, and she'll fire up the digger and decide to try it. But we've lived with that for 10 years now. You know, she's just not respectful of how other people live. It's just how she lives, you know, lay in bed till lunchtime and then get up, have a coffee, have a smoke and everything else, and then decide to do something. That's how she lives. And she got this idea that if she was to buy a static caravan, I think static caravans in America across the pond are called trailers. You know, so it's like a mobile home type thing. So, and that if she bought this and she moved into it, she could rent out their farmhouse. Now, their farmhouse is in the middle of what we call a steptoe's yard. It's full of trash and junk, and it's a scrapyard, and no decent person would want to rent the farmhouse there and live in it. And she thought if she did this, then she wouldn't have to go out and work her 12 hours a week. So anyway, that was her idea. And we immediately know the sort of person who'd be renting that type of farmhouse, and it would be quite disruptive to us over here. Anyway, she bought this static and she was having it delivered 2 weeks prior to its delivery. She went down the drive, which I'll just repeat again, we own the drive. She has right of access down it only. And her workman were down there and they were cutting back branches, and she trimmed. Right, I can see a bug there and I want to get him. That's one of them stink bug things. And they went down the drive and trimmed, or I think, what's it called in America, trimming? Is it a weed basher? And they trimmed all our drive, and they cut back all the wildflowers, all the baby trees, the orchids, the wild strawberries, the blueberries, all of that. It looked like it had been napalmed. I was devastated when I saw it. And I did send her a message saying she was not to touch anything in the drive again. And there was a tree that was going to be in the way of this caravan coming. So my husband went down and we took this tree down. It was a big larch tree. And we thought that was the end of the matter. And then last week she was having this static caravan delivered. And it was arriving on the Wednesday morning, about 10:30, 11 o'clock. I saw it coming up past us at the top of the drive at about 12ish. So I thought, oh, that's it, static caravan's in. There was obviously no issues because she hadn't phoned, she hadn't messaged, nothing. I was going out that afternoon to the craft group. So I went out about 1:30, got to the end of the drive, and I just sat there and cried. They had cut down 7 trees. 7 of our trees they'd cut down. She hadn't messaged me, nothing, absolutely nothing. And then on top of that, they'd pulled up the egg sign, which was setting a concrete block over the other side of the drive, and dumped it. And it was just like devastation. I couldn't believe it, could not believe it. I went off to the craft club. I was quite angry. I did do some videos of it. When I sent her a message expressing how upset I was at what she'd done. All afternoon expecting to hear back from her, not a peep. I got home here about 4:45, fed the animals, did all that. And 6 o'clock when I walked the dogs down the drive, I still hadn't heard of her. She was home the whole time. So this is 6 hours after the caravan had been delivered. Walked the dogs down the drive, and I did a proper walking along video this time where I wasn't so upset, but I was still upset, but I wasn't upset like with my first video. And I decided that I was going to call the police because this was criminal damage. And it was the fact that she hadn't apologised, she hadn't come round, she hadn't phoned, nothing. Just, it was like she was entitled to do what she wanted, because at one time she used to own it. And she's very much like that, an entitled, I'm entitled to do this, I'm entitled to do that, nobody's going to stop me. That is her attitude in life. And I picked up a couple of the young trees when I was down there. When I walked back up with the dogs, I actually threw them over her gate into her yard, and she was there. And she come up all smiling, "Oh, I'm sorry, I haven't had a chance to come round and see you yet." So, and again, I expressed how angry and upset I was. And she just didn't care. She didn't care at all. And I thought, that's 10 years of a friendship gone down the pan. And never again will I keep an eye on her mum so she can go off swanning down to Sussex and night clubbing and doing whatever it is she does down there. She can pay somebody now to come and keep an eye on her mum, and she can pay somebody to go and feed her horses when she's away. We won't be doing anything. And when Martin got home, his opening words to me were, when he saw it when he got home that night, he was out working all that day, and his opening words were, "Right, that's it, we're bringing our plans forward, we're going to finish all the work on the house here that we're doing, and we're going to have the place on the market next year." So that's what we're doing. I am still I can't get my head around the fact that we're going to be moving again so soon. Only just got the kitchen that I've always wanted done, and I'm happy to leave behind me polytunnels. We're getting rid of all the buffalo are going, and it's because they've made it, the two sets of neighbours have made it so uncomfortable for us to be here, and both sets of neighbours feel that they are just entitled people. And surprisingly, both sets of neighbours come from the same area of the UK. They both come from Sussex, which is a very entitled, snobby, I can do whatever I want attitude type of place. None of them work, none of them know the meaning of hard work. I'm not saying everybody in Sussex doesn't, but these particular ones do, and neither of them have got friends up here. Neither of them have friends visiting or anything. It's really, really strange, but there we go, down to them. They're not the sort of people we want to be living beside, especially as we're getting older, and we know as they get older they're going to need more and more help around the place. So we're not doing it. We're going to be looking for a bungalow. We've decided we're going to start looking into our old age and preparing for that. So we're going to look for a bungalow. We're going to stay in Wales, down South Wales, where the weather, Pembrokeshire way, where the weather is a bit more kind. And we're just bringing our plans forward by 4 years or whatever. So that is that. And so that's up to date with our plans of what's happening. I've got really nothing more I can say on the subject. I'm just, really shocked that it's all come to this, but there we go. That's people for you. So our next place will be very, very choosy. We will make sure there's nobody directly over our garden fence like that. We'll make sure we do not have a scrapyard on our doorstep, and the type of people that attracts to live there. And it is a scrapyard. There's a scrapyard, and they've got all that land, and all they have is a couple of manky little horses on it, and they don't grow anything. They don't raise any food. Neither of the properties do. They both go to the local supermarket and fill up on junk food. I see all the rubbish they put out each week. It's down to them. They can eat what they like, but the land is wasted on them. So anyway, with that, I'm going to finish up. I've got a lot to get on with, and so that's where I am going to be now for the next however long it takes to get everything straight and sorted. We've got all the rendering here of the house to get done, a few bits and pieces finished off indoors, and then we'll be ready to put it on the market and move on to something new. We will have something with a few acres of land. What exactly, I don't know. We know it'll be a bungalow, and we will have a motorhome, and we will go off travelling, so that we know. But we won't have people like them or the ones on the other side living next to us, we hope. So take care everybody, and I'll catch up with you again soon.